Welcome back to Unreal Engine 5, Blueprint Mastery, Door Systems and Interactive Portals. Previously, we finished with the visual part, the setup of our scene and setting the visuals and the meshes of our blueprints for the new door. Now, let's continue with programming the manager. Let's open the manager, let's go to the event graph. And what we need here is two custom events and say button on and another custom event button off. Now, we're gonna do something tricky, but also not a lot necessary, but it's a good way to demonstrate another variable container. We're gonna use the map variable container. So we're gonna duplicate this door BP and we're gonna name it puzzle pieces. So, and we're gonna go to containers and choose map container. Now, as you can see, a second variable type has appeared over here, which we're gonna set to Boolean. What did we actually create over here? What is this map container? Well, the map container follows the rule that the set container follows. This means it cannot have duplicate first variable type. By saying this, I mean the second variable type can be multiple times the same, doesn't matter, but the first variable type must be always different, cannot be the same. And of course, this list corresponds to the way things are inputted. For example, right now we made it instant editable and exposed on spawn, and we will add 3 variables. I have to do it from here because every time I add one, I cannot add another one because non-variable is the first variable and it considers it something unique. So I cannot add a second non. So adding the first non, as you can see, I cannot add a second one, but if I choose one of the buttons, and the order here is important. So the first button is the left one from the way we are looking at right now. So I'm gonna add a second variable, the second would be the middle one, and the third variable, the third one would be the right one. Now, since we have an order of 1, 2, 3, and we have a corresponding on-off button, we can set a code of which is the correct way these buttons should work. So let's go back to our puzzle manager. Let's create another variable that we will call correct password. And it's not going to be of the type map, it's going to be of the type array, and it's going to be of the type Boolean, container array and type Boolean. We're going to compile and save. We're going to add 3 elements, and let's say the first one and the last one should be on, and this is the correct password. We could expose it on spawn and editable, make it editable, so we can set whatever password we want from out here. Now remember, as many puzzle pieces we have, that many password correct array elements should we have for this type of puzzle that we are making, the way we are making it. Now, let's go back to the puzzle manager, and what we need to do is add an actor as an input on both these events. So we're going to place this plus over here, we're going to add actor, and here we're going to add also an actor. And let's name it puzzle piece, and let's copy paste it to the other event also. So what we're going to be doing is when we are turning a button on, we're going to be adding to this map. Now, why we're going to be adding? Because maps have the unique property that when we add something that already exists, it just updates the value. So when we are turning a button on, we will be adding something. We will be adding that actor, which already exists, and will turning its boolean on. When we are removing, when we are turning off the button, we will be adding the same, but turning it on. So this will be updating our value. Now, the next step would be to have a branch that we will connect to both. And here we will have a condition that we will create a function, but let's not create it yet. The next thing we should do is get our door blueprint, say unlock message or lock message, and connect to true or false. Because if the puzzle is solved, we are unlocking. If the puzzle is false, we are locking the door. Now, let's create the condition. For the condition, we're going to make a function. We're going to call it puzzle solved. Actually, just puzzle solved. Doesn't need a question mark. I don't like having question marks in variables or functions. And this one will have an output and it will be pure because we're not going to be setting something in here. The output would be a boolean, and let's name it puzzle solved also, and compile and save. And what we will do in here, it's pretty simple. We're gonna get our puzzle pieces. Now, there are two ways to get values and keys. We call the first one keys, the second one values. So we got the keys, get keys, and we got the get values, actually just values. So as you can see, this one gets our keys, the first part, and this one gets the values, which is the second part. Now, we're just gonna get our values, and we're gonna get our correct password, and we're gonna compare the arrays. And as you can see, I chose the identical. I pressed equal, but it also brings this identical. This is what we want. These two arrays, because this is an array output, we want them to be identical. If they are identical, it means the password is correct. If they're not identical, it means the password is wrong. Let's compile and save. And pretty much, let's bring the function also. Connect it over here. Pretty much that is the whole code of the manager. That will be it. Now, let's continue with the button. I'm going to compile and save this one. And before we go to the button, actually, yeah, let's continue with the button first. Let's press add component and add a collision cube that we're gonna need to check if the actor is in front. Let's bring it over here so we don't have to resize it externally. Let's make it a little bit bigger than the button. Yeah, I think that's a fine distance. And compile and save. Let's go to event graph and actually let's go to the door puzzle, and we're gonna copy these events over here that they show us the widget and enable the input. We're gonna go back to the button and paste them over here. The update widget, we're gonna create a matching function, confirm, and we're gonna go into this function, compile and save. It has this problem with the error with the game mode. We need the game mode from the begin play. Let's bring that quickly. So we go to begin play. Actually gonna copy all this. Go back to the button. And paste it over here. And create this variable. And now it will compile. Now, back to the update widget. We kind of have this code over to our lever. So if I open the lever and go to the widget, I can just copy this and go back to the button and paste it over here, connect this over here, and the is solved, we're gonna use it for if it's pressed or not. So I'm gonna create it as a variable, and let's rename it to is on. And let's change use to press. Or you know what? Let's make it a little bit more pretty. Let's duplicate this update widget text, and let's set this if it's on, turn off, and this will be turned on. So now we know exactly what it's doing when we are pressing it. And let's not forget to connect the third-person game mode, compile and save, back to the event graph, and let's create our input E. I'm gonna put it over here. Here we will need some room, so I'm gonna put it over here. Keyboard E. Here it is. And the first thing we're gonna need is the timeline. So I'm gonna add timeline, and I'll explain you in a second. So the reason we need the timeline first is because we need to ask if it's already playing. So I'm gonna bring the timeline component over here. I'm gonna ask is playing, because if it's already playing, we don't want to be able to push the button again. So I'm gonna put a branch, I'm gonna connect it here, I'm gonna put it here, and if it's false, then it means the animation of the button has finished. So this is the time to play a sound. Play sound. And the sound we will play is button Q. Now, the next question would be if the button is on or off. So I'm going to connect is on here. And if it's on, I'm going to set it to it's not on. And if it's off, I'm going to set it to it's on. And then I'm going to connect it to the timeline to play and reverse. But there needs some explanation for this, because this timeline will have a different flow track. So let's leave this for the next time, and I'm gonna see you then. Goodbye.